Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
Ger Sweeney presents Live on Eire in association with emeraldconnection.net.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney. Well, good evening and welcome. Yes, I am here. Why is that so low? I'll have a look at that in a second. Anyway, good evening and welcome. It's nice to have your company on this Wednesday evening. Apologies for not being with you last week, but I was travelling back to Ireland and it all happened in kind of a hurry. I'll tell you more about that shortly. But for now, we're going to struggle on with what we are doing. You know what? I think I might need to... yes, I do need to change things around. I've forgotten the configuration of the studio since I came back from Spain, and I have it configured slightly differently. So I know what I'm going to do. Firstly, can I say thank you to Howard. Howard, thanks a million for Spain today. I wish you and Luna a very pleasant Wednesday evening. I look forward to hearing from you again tomorrow. And tomorrow being, what day it is tomorrow? Tomorrow is what day? It's Thursday. I'm up in a heap at the minute because I spent Wednesday travelling to Santander by car, by road. And then on Thursday and Friday, I was on board the ferry to Ireland. And the weekend was a holiday weekend in Ireland. So I'm kind of up in a heap. Don't know where I am. But anyway, thank you to Howard. Before I tell you I'll tell you what's coming up on the programme. And then I'm going to take a break so that I can reconfigure things here the way they should be configured. Alrighty? And that shouldn't take too long at all. Oh, actually, 1 second now. I can help myself by doing a little bit of housekeeping. Before I do that, I can turn that off there. Right, okay. Coming up on the programme, I'm going to be talking to Dr. Karen Ward in the first hour. Who is Dr. Karen Ward, you ask me? Well, Dr. Ward is one of the people who instigated Bridget's Way Celtic pilgrimage. It's kind of like the Camino, all right? But it's in Ireland, and it's to celebrate the life and times of St. Bridget. And last Thursday was St. Bridget's Day in Ireland, and St. Bridget is our female patron saint. We have St. Patrick as well, of course, and I think Columkill is in there too. So that's who St. Bridget is, and we have a bank holiday weekend, which was just gone, and I wanted to do something on Bridget, and so I'm talking to Dr. Ward this evening about Bridget's Way Celtic pilgrimage. No stranger to Live on Eire in the second hour. George Lee will be joining me, and he will be presenting with me the G2 Summit, talking about some of the stories that have people talking in Ireland at present. Alrighty, so that's what we have for you. Some news stories as well, and I've got some music for you lined up as well. Some nice stuff in there this evening as well. So as I said, I'm going to take a quick break. I've got to sign off and sign back on again. I should be able to do it. 1 second now, actually, there's another issue. I'm too well prepared sometimes, and when you're too prepared for something and then things don't quite work out, it can have a negative impact. So let me go in here and do this. How are you anyway? If you want to get in contact, by the way, you're more than welcome to get in touch. You can simply send a WhatsApp message to +34 645 99 67 95, or you can send an email to studio@tre.radio. All right, whichever suits you will be fine with me as well. So let's do that. I'm going to take a very quick... Oh no, that's the wrong one. Jeepers. I'm going to take a very quick break and come back to me after that then. And... I should be organised and will bring you some of the news that I intended to bring you anyway during the programme. Alrighty? Won't be long. Good luck now.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
Playing with a group of kids, and I loved it. And so, when we got back, I was like telling her the kids, most of them were better than me in football, which is, hard for me to admit sometimes. And then we had fun, and we had all this stuff in common. And then I remember when we were walking out, I said, haram. It's Arabic word, and it has several meanings, but I was using the meaning of poor them, like that they live like this, that they don't have any opportunities. And my grandmother said, no, haram on us, taking different meaning of the word, meaning that we are sinning to allow this to happen on our watch. And that just stuck with me. I didn't think, about 20 years from that moment, it would come back full circle.
Her grandmother was very clear with Luma. Don't show charity to these refugees to make yourself feel better. Do something meaningful and keep asking yourself, what else can I be doing to help? What next? But Luma was just a child with football on the brain.
I think for me, it was an outlet. It was a physical outlet. Like it gives you a high, when you're playing. And I think growing up in the Middle East, maybe there's like a little bit of rebellion. Like girls didn't do it. And so I wanted to do it. I wanted to play like my brothers and my cousins. Like, why do they get to do it and I can't? And then part of it is like I'm extremely competitive. And so I played hard. Like I would play against cousins that were 4 and 5 years older than me.
Just to make sure, I'm sorry, I don't know what has gone wrong as I was reconfiguring what I was doing, but I'm going to play a little piece of music and let's see if that all comes through. And if it does, then it'll be happy days for everybody. Yeah, we're good. We're back. All righty. Let me see. Okay, I want to send greetings. Good luck to 2 8-year-olds from the west of Ireland. They're heading to New York to compete in the fastest kid in the world race. Charlie Sweeney, no relation, from Merview in County Galway, and Saoirse Higgins from County Sligo are off to Milrose Games, known as the Indoor Olympics in the running world. The 55-metre race for children is a showcase event taking place next Sunday. Fastest Feet was set up in Ireland as part of a talent ID programme by Sligo coach Dermot McDermott and sponsored by Galway man Richard Donovan. Richard is an ultra-marathon runner and organiser of extreme running events around the world. Both men are ardent supporters of athletics in Ireland and have developed a strong connection with the Milrose Games. Every year, thousands of 8-year-olds across the country are tested for top-end speed along school corridors and schoolyards as well. Now, Saoirse and Charlie will meet 6 Olympic medalists at a press conference in New York and attend a black tie gala at the weekend. Irish athlete and 3-time Olympian Eamon Coughlin will also be in attendance. The former world champion won the Wanamaker Mile in New York on 7 occasions. The Milrose Games events will be broadcast on television in the United States, and Charlie and Saoirse will share the stage alongside Olympic and world champions who will be participating in the Games senior meets. So there we go. That's interesting. Sad news, unfortunately, to bring you as well. Today, you will probably know this already. The death of former Taoiseach John Bruton was announced yesterday morning, and since then there has been much commentary on radio, television, newspapers and all social media outlets. President Michael D. Higgins led the tribute, saying that it was a privilege to serve as a member of Dáil Éireann and of Cabinet with Mr. Bruton, and described him as a very energetic Taoiseach. He went on to say that Mr. Bruton was a deeply committed politician who demonstrated a lifelong interest and engagement in public affairs and public service both in Ireland and internationally. Now, George and I will be discussing John Bruton further in the next hour on the G2, because it certainly is something that people have been talking a lot about over the last 24 hours or thereabouts. Alrighty. The government has announced €84 million in funding to enhance research and innovation opportunities for the Technological University, the TU sector. The programme will establish, equip and staff regional research and innovation offices within TUs to enable deepened engagement with local and regional business, industry and enterprise stakeholders. It will also focus on staff development, recruitment, postgraduate training and supervision, networking and collaborative knowledge transfer and mobility schemes. The funding will be allocated to the country's 5 TUs, as well as to Dundalk Institute of Technology and Dunleary Institute of Art, Design and Technology. The programme, TU Rise is what it's called, is co-funded by the Government of Ireland and the European Union through the Southern, Eastern and Midland and Northern and Western regional programmes. Minister for Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science, Simon Harris, said that TUs are catalysts of regional development and support. As they support the skills and employment agendas regionally and nationally. The significant research-oriented funding will further enhance their capacity in this regard, he says, ensuring that as a nation, Ireland will be recognised as a world leader in research and innovation for years to come. The Higher Education Authority will manage the operations of the TU Rise scheme. So there we have it. I think we'll take some music because the clock is ticking, not the talk is clicking. There you go. PJ Curtis, this is something I had intended playing last week, but PJ got in touch with me. He said, Ger, I don't know, does this meet the criteria? Because I know that you play only all Irish music. And when PJ sends me something like that, I would take very great notice of it. And delighted to be able to do so as well. I just need to line it up. No, actually, there's no point telling you what it if I haven't got it lined up, so there isn't. No, definitely not. But this is a song that PJ himself produced in County Clare. All right, it's sung by a man called Tim Flannery. Tim is third generation Irish. He's from the UIS. And there is a heap, as we say here in Ireland, a heap of great talent on board. And of course, it meets the criteria. Of course, it's Irish because it is absolutely brilliant. It's from an album which is called Pieces of the Past. Oh, here it is coming. That's all right. We're going to change all that now. Yeah, we are. Pieces of the Past. It's about from the year 2000, as far as I know. And there is, along with the singer himself, everything bar the main vocals was done in Ennis, in Matt Purcell's studio. What's this? Matt calls his studio. Just there now for a while anyway. I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, it's featuring Josephine Marsh on accordion. You will recall last year that we had Josephine's playing and life partner Mick Kinsella playing the harmonica. And I did say at the time we must organise Josephine for a chat. We'll do that too one of the days. Jim Kerrigan is on the uilleann pipes on this. Matt Manning is playing acoustic guitar and bass. And then you got vocals then from Bruce Hornsby. And Steve Pauls is in there as well on backing vocals. And all but the main vocals were recorded in Harmony Row Studios. That's it, I couldn't think of the name in Ennis. And from Tim's album from the year 2000. We'll take a listen to it. There's an introduction to it, and I'm going to let the introduction in it because it's part of it, and it's an absolutely lovely track. So take a listen to this if you would. As I said, it's from Tim Flannery. It's called Immigration Eyes. Hope you enjoy it.
And my mother came from Ireland when she was 11 years old, and she come across the ocean in a sailing ship. They was 6 weeks on the water. No storms would come, and my mother said she prayed the hardest prayer she ever prayed in her life one night when there was a storm for God to save them all. But they made it safe, and she come and spent her days and years on Indian Creek and Cow Creek.
Island was swarming like a scene from a costume ball, decked out in the colors of Europe and on fire with the hope of it all. There my father's own father stood huddled with the tired and hungry and scared turn of the century pilgrims, bound by the dream that they shared. They were standing in line just like cattle, poked and sorted and shoved. Some were one desk away from sweet freedom, and some were torn from someone they loved. Through the sprawling Tower of Babel Became a young man, confused and alone, determined and bound for America, and carrying everything that he owned. Sometimes when I look in my grandfather's immigrant eyes, I see that day reflected. I can't hold my feelings inside. I see starting with nothing and working hard all of his life. So don't take it for granted. Say grandfather's immigrant eyes. Now he rocks and he stares out the window, but his eyes are just as clear as the day he sailed through the harbor and come ashore on the island of tears. My grandfather's days are numbered, but I won't let his memory die, 'cause he gave me the gift of this country and the look in his immigrant eyes. Sometimes when I look in my grandfather's immigrant eyes, I see that day reflected. I can't hold my feelings inside. I see starting with nothing and working hard all of his life. So don't take it for granted. Say grandfather's immigrant eyes. I won't take it for granted. Grandfather's immigrant eyes.
Isn't it beautiful? It comes from the album Pieces of the Past from Tim Flannery. That particular track from the album was mainly recorded in County Clare in Harmony Row Studios in Ennis. I believe transmission was breaking up a little bit because I was doing things here as I was doing the introduction. And let me tell you once again who was featured on that track. I mentioned it was produced by PJ Curtis, Josephine Marsh on accordion, Jim Kerrigan on the uilleann pipes, Matt Manning on acoustic guitar and bass, Bruce Hornsby and Steve Pulse on backing vocals. They were added apparently from San Diego afterwards. Thanks a million to PJ for sending that to me. Alrighty, I think we've settled down now. Apologies, but I had it reconfigured. I had to reconfigure the studio setup, and it only took a few minutes. But when you go messing with things like that, sometimes there are little glitches. Live radio, huh? It's right. I'm going to take a quick break, and after that, I'm going to be talking to the first guest on the programme, Dr. Karen Ward from Bridget's Way Celtic Pilgrimage. And when I introduce Dr. Ward, I'll tell you more about that. All right, let's do that. I'll be back very shortly.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
Bridget's Way Celtic Pilgrimage is a 9-day walking pilgrimage. Now, those who honour Bridget as a pre-Celtic goddess or Christian saint come to walk in her footsteps as a way to find peace, connect with our ancestors, and commune with the sacred land of Ireland. Dr. Karen Ward is one of the instigators of this pilgrimage, and she joins me via Zoom this evening. Karen, it's lovely to talk to you. How are you today?
I am very well, and I'm very happy, Ger, to be here basking in all things Bridget, because as the years roll by, isn't she becoming so well known, not just as the matron saint of Ireland, but for her pre-Celtic goddess angle as well. So it's wonderful to see she has Yeah, an influence in so many people's lives, if you will, coming across the great mists of time, but there is very much a relevance to our lives today as modern women and men.
Did you say matron saint? Is that the way to say it rather than the female patron saint?
Well, if you think about it,
yeah.
For years she was known as one of the three patron saints with St. Patrick and St. Columkill. And then there were those of us who realised, well, let's think about this. She's a woman, matron, patron. So we began to use the word matron, and I think it's really taken off now at this stage. Well, so she is the only matron saint of Ireland.
Well, from here on, she will be known as the matron saint of Ireland as far as I'm concerned, and that's the way we'll continue to address her. Tell me about the origins, if you would please, about this pilgrimage, which has been kind of associated or aligned with the Camino in Spain, that our listeners in Spain will be very familiar with. Indeed, any European or from across the world. So how did it come about?
Well, I have been walking and hiking for many years, and the wonderful Dolores Whelan, who's a Celtic scholar, and she lives up in Dundalk, also, unbeknownst to me, was very much a walker and hiker. And Bridget really spoke to both of us. For Dolores, it was because she lives near Faughart, which is reputed to be St. Bridget's birthplace. And my great-grandmother and my grandmother grew up in Kildare, literally a stone's throw from St. Bridget's Cathedral.
Okay.
And in 2012, the two of us were at a talk in Bridget of Faughart Festival by the great Anthony Murphy. Some of you listeners might know him from Mythological Ireland. I think his great claim to fame is he was the one who discovered what is now affectionately known as drone henge, during the drought years for COVID, this huge big wooden henge near Newgrange. And he was doing a talk on something himself and the artist Richard Moore discovered, which was they were looking at the star alignment at the time of St. Patrick and St. Bridget, their lives. And they discovered that the great Cygnus constellation, the Swan constellation, was high in the sky. And one of these stars was the North Star at that time. So the sailors, the farmers, our ancestors would have orientated themselves by the North Star in this great Swan constellation, and literally flying down the skies. And the two of them decided, they felt like kind of geeky schoolboys. They took out a ruler and a pen, and they looked at this big map. And they started at Faughart, and they drew a straight line down to Kildare. And they noticed something very interesting. There were all these, what would be known, Ger, sacred sites, the Hill of Slane, the Hill of Tara, Beaupark Mott, Railtoe, on an exact straight line, literally as the swan flew down the skies.
Okay.
And during this talk, something grabbed me deep inside, and I thought, I've got to walk this. And over the other side of the room, Dolores felt the same thing. We got chatting afterwards, and we decided, like the mad yokes we were, look, let's do this. And then something incredible happened. And definitely the Camino de Santiago, I would say, so many people are aware of it. And a lot of people from Ireland background, Irish descent, or love, they walked the Camino, and then they began to think, well, what do we have in Ireland? So we had Australians, Canadians, Americans from the four corners of Ireland, from Spain, Portugal, Germany, France, came with us. We want to walk this too. And this beautiful 9-day pilgrimage literally unfolded in front of our eyes through the beautiful countryside of Louth into Meath and then into Kildare. And there were some lovely parts that are least known, like Donady Forest Park. Oh, the jewel in the crown. The little villages of Knockbridge and Louth are so picturesque. And then, of course, the rolling hills of Meath, and particularly Tara itself. And we realised we were not just founding, we were co-rediscovering this ancient path, because as we meandered down the route, we were discovering old Bridget's wells that hadn't been used in years. there was documented historically certain sections of that's the Pilgrim's Path, that's the Pilgrim's Way. And it was so exciting. And it's just grown and grown from there. And there's a lovely man, John G. O'Dwyer, who really put together and wrote and organised the National Pilgrim Paths. And surprise, surprise, there are 12 male saints. And Bridget is the 13th.
Wow.
She is the only female saint.
Why did and does St. Bridget speak to you?
Why? Yeah. I think, Ger, she is a force of nature. She is an archetypal energy of a strong, feisty Irish woman standing in her power with a warm, nurturing heart, who hospitality, healing, creativity, the fire in your belly, if you will. And what I love about both Goddess Bridget and Saint Bridget, they share many, many attributes, is there's a practical element aligned and married to the mystical element. So there's a spiritual, naturally enough, but there's also a roll up your sleeves and get things done. Everybody was welcome in her community, both men and women, and that was very unusual in those days.
Right.
And it was often said that if you had the hospitality of Bridget, no Irish woman could have a greater accolade devoted to her than you have the hospitality of Bridget.
Oh, lovely. The 9 days, when I heard about this originally, I thought it was a track, like the Camino. It's a starting point and a finish point, and that one could go along and walk it. I'm sure you can, but you organise the 9 days specifically for people to come and walk in June. Am I right?
Well, yes, there's both, actually, Jerry. You're absolutely right. So anybody can walk Bridget's Way anytime, and the bridgetsway.ie, we spell her name with the D, the old-fashioned way. They can go on the website and they can see each section, and they can download or walk with their phone, and all the information is there. However, over the years, we have organised what's called a led pilgrimage. So a little bit like many people walk the Camino themselves, but then many also go on an organised led walk, as it's called. And then we've discovered that Bridget's cloak spreads much farther than we ever thought.
Right.
Because a lovely man organised a walk from Downpatrick, where she's buried, to Fahart, and that's a 3-day walk. And then there are those of us based in Dublin, and we began to bring Bridget into the city. And we realised that from Kildare, on the Curragh, from her cathedral, to Dublin is another 3-day walk. And currently there's a wonderful researcher. She's doing a master's over in England, and she's looking at Bridget up through Wales into the Bride's Well in London, and also up to Glastonbury. So her cloak, and of course, Scotland revere Bridget as well. Did you know the Hebrides have Bridie?
Bridget.
Bridie again, yeah. Balbriggan in Dublin, Ballybrigeen. So she certainly got around, that's for sure.
She certainly did. What are the dates of your pilgrimage this year, the walk this year in June? In fact, I have them right here. If I can just, the 5th to the 9th of June. That's when I have.
Yes.
So,
and this year we're doing something a little bit different.
Good.
Because it's the great Bridget 1500. 1500 years since she died on the 1st of February. And a very significant time, the coming of spring, because both Goddess and Matron Saint ushered in this really special, hopeful time. So we decided, right, we'll do something different this year. And 3 amazing women. We call ourselves Bridget's Way fire keepers, because we are keeping the flame alive, so to speak. And 3, Baveen, Mirren and Tracy, who have walked Bridget's Way many times and have, like myself, are part of this beautiful fire keepers tribe, so to speak. They are going to specifically feature the wells and the water. And this time they're going to do a 5-day walk. So 5 of the Bridget's Way 9-day walks. And you see, this is what, Ger, it's a little bit, dare I say, it's a little bit like sacred Lego. You might think to yourself, do you know what? Easter week, sure, I might do day 9 of Bridget's Way. And then you could come back and do day 8 along the canal another time. So it's very exciting. And as you know, the same with the Camino in Spain. People maybe walk one section on one holiday and then they'll come back again. So it's whatever really calls to you.
Okay.
There are many drawn up to Fard because they've never been up to Louth and they want to see what is up there. And yet many people up the north want to come down to Kildare because they've never seen that. You can understand the glorious. But if people particularly want a lead walk where her stories will be coming alive literally as they walk, then in June, this water and the wells aspect of Bridget's Way might be just what they're looking for.
And this is where you impart information and the stories are told and reflections. And it's a spiritual thing, but is there a religious aspect to it?
There is. It depends on where you're coming from. Bridget, as goddess and saint, she was very much into equality, diversity, justice and peace. So therefore, everybody was welcome to her community, her monastic community. And similarly with Bridget's Way, we often smile to ourselves. We start at Fahert, and there's a little stone circle, which would have been ancient pagan, if you will. And then there's the lovely shrine with the church, which is Catholic. And then when we come to the Hill of Slane, the local shaman meets us there and greets us with the fire. When we get to Tara, the local druid is on the hill. When we get to Donady Forest Park, the Friends of the Forest are Church of Ireland. And then, of course, we come into the Solis Breda Sisters in Kildare. And again, they're Catholic nuns, but very much nature-based spirituality, as Bridget personified. She was very much in touch with nature. So we like to think that there's that... there's a secular aspect and then there's a multi-denominational aspect. So whatever your belief system is, everybody is welcome.
You refer to her as a matron saint and goddess. What's the difference?
Now, that is the conundrum, the glorious conundrum, Ger.
Okay.
There are a number of ancient texts. So we might think of Lar Gavala Éireann or Cormac's Glossary. And there were 3 Life of St. Bridget books written by 3 different people. And some of them talk about the goddess Bridget, and some of them talk about the Saint Bridget. Interestingly enough, no one text talks about both, which is interesting. However, we have what's called in academic terms the phenomenon of syncretism. And you come across this worldwide where one religion is overlaid on top of a former belief system. So therefore, you could have a Catholic church or a mosque or a synagogue or whatever, which is on top of ancient ruins, for example. And we find this with Bridget, that the pre-Celtic goddess had 3 aspects: healing, creativity, and the blacksmith. And she heralded spring. So February was a really important time. Matron Saint Bridget also has healing, inspiration, and blacksmithing. And of course, spring. And the spring element brings in the saint and the goddess for women who are pregnant, for babies, the midwife. The blacksmith brings in an alchemical, if you will, taking this black metal and turning it into very useful, practical things, including protection. And then the creativity. I mean, what was amazing, Bridget, in her monastic community, invited the hermit. His name was Conleth. He became a saint, Conleth. And he was over basically they created these amazing books, a bit like the Book of Kells.
Okay.
And it was said that the Book of Kildare rivaled the Book of Kells, and it was written by angels. It was so amazing. But of course, it was lost in the mists of time and in various wars and whatever, the Reformation. So these attributes, if you will, are common to both the goddess and the matron saint. And here is something interesting for your listeners to think about. in our modern world, whether you subscribe to, you will have heard that there are holy men such as Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, and that they are men, but they were incarnate from their godlike. So they were God incarnate as a man. But there might be some people who think, well, what about the women? So personally, I like to think that Bridget, it makes sense. Here she is, this pre-Celtic goddess. And here is this incredible woman in the 5th century in Ireland who had huge similarities to her, a similar message, and she lived amongst people as a human woman. So I think to myself, there might be a lot of similarities there.
Is St. Bridget important, becoming more important to us because society is recognizing equality more than it had done? Is that the reason that we now say, well, listen, hold on a second, along with St. Patrick, we have St. Bridget. Is that the reason, or is there something else happening?
It is, and there's more, Ger, and I'll tell you why. You might have noticed that we have a new national holiday here in Ireland.
Indeed.
And it's called Bridget's Day. It's not called St. Bridget's Day. It's called Bridget's Day. So therefore, it is all-encompassing. Those who revere Bridget as a saint, those who revere her as a goddess, those who revere her as an archetypal woman. And I think myself, it's more down to the times we live in our world, where women are seen as equal but different to their menfolk. And this was very much Bridget's message from those many moons ago. And especially for young women, they look at their brothers or their friends or their partners and they think, I'm different, but I'm equally worthy and just as good. And I think this very old message has huge relevance today as we take our place in humanity. And therefore, there's the metaphysical, if you will, the mystical aspect of it. Here in Ireland, I think because there was a pull away from the majority of people following one particular religion, in this case, Catholicism, but following it in a very much, tell me what to do and I'll do it, to recognition for those who are Catholics and who are not Catholics, what feels right in my heart. Being good, being a person of good heart, what does that mean? So that people are choosing of their own volition, taking responsibility for their own actions. And that's very much Bridget's message. It wasn't, here, follow this to the letter, just do it. There was a questioning, there was a looking to what feels right. So I think her messages are very much relevant to how we as a people are thinking today. The rise of the feminine, and that includes the feminine within you, Ger, and the masculine within me as a woman, or whatever your gender you identify as. And I think for Bridget to do what she did and set up the monastic city, she was a physical woman, but she had to have a very strong masculine element to her, the activity to get it all done. Whereas Conleth, who was a man, had that very beautiful feminine quality to him, that the artistic, nurturing, caring side for what he did with the amazing school of art that they had there. And it's the blending of both. As I said, diversity, equality, equal but different.
You call it Bridget's Well and Water's Pilgrimage. You've purposely left the saint out, and you've just explained why.
Yeah. Okay. It's always been Bridget's way. And that was interesting from the get-go when Dolores and I, as I said, co-rediscovered this. It was interesting. The name came to us. We didn't invent it. It was Bridget's Way. And we kind of pondered, that's an unusual name. Okay. Bridget's Way Celtic Pilgrimage. And then, of course, we discovered that there's St. Declan's Way and there's Brendan's Way. And there's way is a term that people can immediately go, this is a pilgrimage walk. Now, if you think about it, most people can manage 10 kilometres, 12 kilometres one day. But can you walk that 9 consecutive days? That's an interesting one. And we found over the years that people have maybe taken a long weekend, such as one we've just had, and they'll walk on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So they'll do 3 days.
Okay.
And then they'll come back later on and do the next 3 and the next 3. People walk in families. They walk with friends, with partners. And we're at the stage now where the county councils of Kildare, Meath and Louth are very much talking to us to put up signage.
Perfect. I was going to ask.
Rather than people having to follow our website, that they can see the signage, that it's so much easier.
Okay.
And it's very timely. Why do we not have our female saint and goddess, her way, her pilgrimage way? And I think people are drawn to walking in the steps of our ancestors, if you think about it, contemplating life in the beautiful nature, really coming to the stillness within while moving their physical body. It's really a beautiful, ancient tradition that has huge relevance in our lives today.
All right. The name of the website again is Bridget's Way. That's BRIGIDS, bridgetsway.ie. And all of the questions that you have will be answered there. And if not, you can contact Karen or her team. There's a lot of you involved in this, isn't there, working behind the scenes?
There is. And interesting enough, the Bridget's Way fire keepers, at the moment, there are 9 of us. And
one for each day.
9 of us, yeah. Kathleen is in Canada. Heidi is in England. Then Baveen and Liam are down in Wicklow. Siobhan is in Wicklow. Tracy's in Waterford. Oh. I'm in Dublin. We're all over.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see the weaving together of what we can do, of what we bring. So in this case, Mirren, she's in Wicklow. Tracy and Baveen, they are stepping forward to lead the wells and the water. Dolores and I led the 9-day pilgrimage for 3 years. And then Dolores stepped back because she's running the Bidget of Bar Festival as well.
Okay, right.
So I kept going. So I've led it for years. And then last year we did something different. Each of the 9 of us took a different day. And the pilgrims walked, so one day with Dolores, and then the next day with Sarah, and then the next day. And it was wonderful. And they really appreciated our own stories and how we were bringing the wonderful roots alive. And of course, along the way in these led pilgrimages, there's stories, rituals, ceremonies that people really appreciate. Okay. So it really is whatever is up to you. You can walk Bridget's Way any time of the day, any time of the year, and it's all on the website. And if you have any questions, contact us there and we'll ask them for you. But if you fancy coming to this particular led one, please do. And we'll have a 1-day walk at Easter, which is the National Pilgrim Path Week. And then we'll have another walk in August during the Heritage Festival of Ireland.
All right. Before I let you go, without giving me too many specifics, how did you celebrate the festival, or did the period, the last few days when we were celebrating St. Bridget?
Well, on the 31st, I put out my Brat Breed, my healing strip.
Oh, yeah.
To catch the dew. Right. And then on the 1st of February, I was out walking in my local park here with the deer and the squirrels.
Lovely.
And then that evening I did 2 Zoom calls, one with people from America and then one with people from more the Celtic Isles. And I was really building up to Sunday, where I was part of the Carrying Her Flame, this huge parade of light in Kildare town, which was amazing. And 19 of us women represented Bridget's 19 firekeepers who kept her perpetual fire. So that was very special and quite spectacular.
Yeah.
And then on her national holiday, I led Bridget's Way Dublin walk from the Sanctuary with Sister Stan, who is a living embodiment of Bridget, down the Liffey, through the park and down the canal, all the way into Clondalkin, which the locals revived the Lá Éile Breed Festival around their beautiful pilgrim path and their well there.
Lovely.
So that was very special, a big hurrah. And then we finished up with lashings of hot, warm soup, the hospitality of Bridget, while we made our Bridget's crosses for this year.
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Listen, it's been fascinating talking to you about Bridget's Way, the Celtic pilgrimage. Bridgetsway.ie, again, is the website. Dr. Karen Ward, thank you for taking time to talk to us. Wish you well, and I might see you on one of the walks.
I look forward to that. Thank you very much.
So take off your old socks, it's too good of a day. All around us on the hillside, see the mourners as they pray. Well, my eyes were like frost for a very long time. You are cross, we are lost now, on our way to St. Bridget's Shrine.
Then get out of your house, don't pull down the blinds. All the old green-eyed monsters are playing hopscotch with your mind. While my eyes were like frost for a very long time. You are cross, we are lost now, on our way to St. Bridget's Shrine.
So take off your old socks, it's too good of a day. All around us on the hillside, see the mourners as they pray. Well, my eyes were like frost for a very long time. You are cross, we are lost now, on our way to St. Bridget's Shrine. Ooh, ooh, ooh,
The sweat on your brow, you sit under a tree. I can see through the green foliage to the place we're supposed to be. There's someone with a host, yeah, shouting about the divine. You are cross, we are lost now, on our way to St. Bridget's Shrine.
So take off your old socks, it's too good of a day. All around us on the hillside, see the mourners as they pray. Well, my eyes were like frost for a very long time. You are cross, we are lost now, on our way to St. Bridget's Shrine. Off your old socks, it's too good of a day. All around us on the hillside, see the mourners as they pray. Well, my eyes were like frost for a very long time. You are cross, we are lost now, on our way to St. Bridget's Shrine.
Isn't that lovely? I came across that last week. Again, another one that I wanted to play last week, but I wasn't here, so I couldn't do it. It's from Jinx Lennon. David Lennon is his real name, and Miss Paula Flynn. That's how she's credited on that. St. Bridget's Shrine is what it's called. And thank you to Dr. Karen Ward for talking to me about Bridget's Way. Certainly something I'd be interested in walking. And as she said, it can be done over a period of time. Happy days. Now, I wanted to mention something. Yes, I did. And I forgot, because things were up in a heap at the start of the programme. All my fault, of course. But you will have heard in the ad that, or the ad break that I took there when I was transferring things over at the start of the programme, an ad for Transmatic in Estepona. And it's an ad that's featured on the programme regularly. And you'll hear it throughout the day. day on the radio station as well. Well, I want to say a big thank you to Rob, to James, to Tom, and to Aurelio, I think is how you might pronounce it. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. They're all working in Transmatic. And you will have heard me talk over the last 9, 10, 11 months that I was having a problem with my car. And I didn't know that it was the gearbox that was the problem with the car until it was diagnosed here in Ireland during the summer. But because I was in Ireland for a long period of time, I gave it to who I was told was the best in the country to get it fixed. And they couldn't fix it. Not only could they not fix it, they couldn't find the problem. They were telling me there was nothing wrong with my gearbox. So once I went back to Spain, I went to Estepona, because if I had figured out that it was the gearbox when I was in Spain, that would have been the first place I went to. And can I honestly say that my car broke James's, Rob's, Tom's and Aurelio's heart. It broke their heart, but they got there. They found the problem and they fixed it. And I just want to say thank you for that. And they would not let it out of the garage unless it was 100%. So thanks very much to all of you. And it's nice that one of our advertisers, when you put faith in them, that they deliver, isn't it? Yeah, because you hear them talking about how good they are, and they are. So thanks a million, guys. Much appreciated. Now, we're heading towards the news at the top of the hour, but Steak Knife's Dirty War is the name of a book which was written by Richard O'Raw. Now, back in October, I spoke with Richard on the programme about Steak Knife. His real name was Freddie Scapitici, one of the British Security's most important agents inside the Provisional IRA. Now, if you read the book or if you heard the conversation on the programme, you will recall that there were a number of outstanding issues relating to Steak Knife. And in recent days, it was announced by the Northern Ireland's Public Prosecution Service that there will be no prosecutions in respect of 4 IRA murders in the early 80s linked to the activities of Steak Knife. The Public Prosecution Service had considered evidence files containing allegations against 2 former British agent handlers and 2 former IRA members. They have been considering a prosecutorial decision by Operation Canova, which is looking into the activities of Freddie Scapitici, who fled Belfast after he was publicly accused of being an agent. He later died in England. Now, the 4 individuals were considered for prosecution in relation to 10 incidents in the early 1980s, including 4 murders. In each case, it was decided that there was insufficient evidence to provide a reasonable prospect of conviction. Stephen Heron, Northern Ireland's Director of Public Prosecution, said that the families of the victims and others caught up in a litany of crimes under consideration had been given detailed written explanations for the no prosecution decision. Prosecutors again faced significant challenges when considering the use of intelligence records as evidence in criminal proceedings, and particularly when original source materials are no longer available, he said. The main allegations against the army handlers were that they handled an agent in the IRA's so-called Internal Security Unit, also known as the Nutting Squad, who they knew was involved in criminality, and that they did not seek to mitigate the risks. The priority of the handlers was the welfare of the source to the detriment of the safety of others, and they failed to take appropriate preventative action in the above cases. An accompanying explanation document from the PPS stated. The incidents covered included the murder of a victim in 81, the abduction and murder of a second victim the same year, the abduction and murder of a victim the following year, and the abduction of 2 victims in 1984, one of whom was murdered and the other released. Files were also submitted in relation to a number of other kidnappings or conspiracy to kidnap, and a number of cases where people who had been snatched were subjected to so-called punishment beatings. The prosecution service has received 28 files from Operation Canova. The Operation Canova investigation team so far, 10 of them were discounted in 2023 after the death of a suspect widely believed to be Mr. Scapitici. Last December, the PPS also decided not to prosecute 15 individuals, 8 civilians, a police officer and 6 British soldiers in relation to 3 murders and other crimes. A further 6 files relating to Operation Canova investigation remains under active consideration. So far, the inquiry has not resulted in any prosecutions. It's cost more than £37 million to date. The PSNI is due to publish the interim Operation Canova report on the 8th of March that it will make for interesting reading, but I would imagine there will be an awful lot that will not be included in that. So there you have it. All righty. I'm going to go to news, and just after that, come back to me for the second hour of the programme. And I did tell you that George Lee will be joining me in the second hour. We're going to be talking about some of the stories that people in Ireland are talking about at the moment. And I hope that you'll stay with me for that. We have some more news stories and we have some more music as well. So all in all, the two of us, you and me, we'll have a grand old after, a grand evening.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
Did she say that they're not going to make not the Bounty Bars, I love the Bounty Bars as well, but the Yorkie biscuits? Is that the brown one with the raisins in it? I love that one. Yeah, I'll miss that if that's the one that we're talking about. I don't eat that many sweets now, in fairness. I don't. Honestly, I don't. I don't have a sweet tooth. But occasionally I do, all right. Bounty will be my favourite. I loves the Bounty. I do. Welcome to the second hour of the programme. What's your favourite chocolate? You've Easter coming up now. Aye, won't be long now. As the fella said when he cut the dog's tail. Right, the Taoiseach. No, there's a kind of a row going on at the minute, or a debate going on. Dublin Airport, because of the planning restrictions, Dublin Airport can only allow 32 million passengers to travel through. Isn't that right? 32, I think, is the thing, can travel through the airport per annum. And that really is not to do with anything other than access roads and access to the airport. And they're trying to get that extended to 40 million. And there's a bit of a row going on. And the Taoiseach has said that while he supports investment in regional airports, Dublin Airport is the main gateway to Ireland. And he supports a lifting of the passenger cap. But Leo Varadkar said that the issues around noise pollution and environmental concerns also have to be considered. Dublin Airport is seeking to expand its capacity beyond the current limit, yes, that's right, of 32 million per annum to 40 million. However, a number of Green Party politicians have expressed concern, including Minister for Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth, Roderick O'Gorman. Over the weekend, Mr O'Gorman said that he had made a submission outlining local concerns around noise pollution. He also said that he wanted to see regional airport growth. Fianna Fáil Junior Transport Minister Jack Chambers said that he fully supports the lifting of a passenger cap at Dublin Airport, arguing that the country cannot have a policy of degrowth. Earlier, the Ryanair CEO Michael O'Leary called for the Transport Minister Eamon Ryan to resign. Of course he did. He said Mr Ryan's position is untenable when he allows a number of his own party's TDs and MEPs to seek to block growth at Dublin Airport. Mr O'Leary said that as an island on the periphery of Europe, Ireland and Irish tourism need growth in low-cost air access, particularly when this growth is being delivered on new and more efficient aircraft, which carry more passengers but burn less fuel and reduce noise emissions as well. And on it goes. That's going to roll for a little while, I would imagine, that debate. Leitrim was the county with the highest rate of volunteers, 18%. That's according to Census 2022, wasn't it? It was, yeah. April 22. Latest data released by the Central Statistics Office, the CSO, shows that in April of that year, 22, more than 700,000 people, or around 14% of the entire population, regularly engaged in helping or voluntary work. The lowest number of volunteers were in Dublin City and South Dublin, both at 11%. The largest number of volunteers were involved in a sporting organisation at almost 290,000 people, or 6% of the population. The next most common areas where people volunteered were in their community or in a social or charitable organisation. Men were most likely to volunteer in a sporting organisation, while women were more likely to volunteer in their community. The data shows that the proportion of people engaged in helping or voluntary work increased with age. Over 1/3, 38%, of all volunteers were aged between 45 and 64 years. Around 16% of volunteers, or more than 113,000 people, volunteered in more than one activity or organisation. Among younger people, 3% of children we start that again, shall we? Among younger people, 3% of children under the age of 15, that's over 30,000 people, volunteered in at least one capacity. That's magic. Census 22 was the first to feature a question on volunteering since 2006. The data also shows that almost 25% of people who work from home for some part of the week volunteer. Time is often identified as the most common reason that people do not volunteer, and the data indicates that people who have more time are more likely to volunteer. However, Volunteer Ireland said it's important to note that not all volunteer roles demand huge time commitments. CEO Nina Arvitz noted the high level of interest, or the high levels of interest in volunteering from new people arriving in Ireland, including people seeking protection and people from Ukraine. She said that through volunteering, people can become active members of their new community. That makes great sense. They also make friends, they learn English, and they build their own local network. It's important to remember that people making Ireland their home make a huge contribution to our communities. Miss Arvitz also pointed out that many organisations are currently struggling to recruit volunteers, and they would encourage them to ensure that their volunteer programmes are open and inclusive to all members of the community. Indeed. If you're a radio person and you're Irish, you will probably know the name Keith Finnegan from Galway Bay FM, the local radio station serving Galway City and County, just up the road from where I'm sitting right now. Well, Keith Finnegan has announced that he is to retire after 34 years of broadcasting. And I'm telling you this because he's kind of an icon in broadcasting terms in Ireland. And I would have met Keith on a couple of occasions. I couldn't say that we're friends. But we know each other. The 62-year-old broadcaster broke the news recently to his listeners on his flagship current affairs programme, Galway Talks. He is going to step down on the 12th of April, but says that he will always be intrinsically associated with the radio station. Keith Finnegan started out as a weekend music presenter on what was called Radio West back in 1989. I remember when they started. That was later rebranded as Galway Bay FM. He went to steer the company in his CEO or director's role before focusing on the radio programme for the past 2 years. Reflecting on over 3 decades of broadcasting, Mr. Finnegan shared some personal and professional highlights, including daily interviews with local and international guests, participation in the 3-day charity event Radiothon, an invitation to the White House for St. Patrick's Day, and leading the St. Patrick's Day parade as Grand Marshal in St. Louis alongside his wife Joan. His achievements include winning the IMRO Awards and induction into the IMRO Hall of Fame. Mr. Finnegan thanked his production team for their contribution to the long-running show and to the listeners across Galway City and County for their continued loyalty and engagement, which has been the bedrock of the programme's longevity. Mr. Finnegan shared a humorous anecdote from his childhood as well, where he said that he and his father had built a radio transmitter, in their home in Merview, setting the stage for his lifelong passion for broadcasting. Indeed, we wish Keith well in his retirement. Although knowing Keith, I would imagine that retirement, as in putting the feet up, is the last thing that he's going to do, I would imagine. We wish him well anyway. Employers in the tech sector are facing challenges when it comes to wage pressures and the availability of talent. That's according to the 2024 Stelfox Salary Guide survey. 70% of tech companies in Ireland say that wage pressure is a major hurdle that they will need to navigate this year, while an even greater number, 83%, are grappling with the availability of talent and demand for skilled professionals escalates. Artificial intelligence, cybersecurity and software engineering are among the most in demand skills categories. The research shows that 41% of employers in the IT sector are planning to expand the size of their teams this year. It also found that there was a 24% decrease in the number of exclusively remote working-based roles in 2023. You made a hymn to that, Ger. As the tech skill demands outstrip supply, many companies are embracing a new culture of learning. That's according to Claire MacDonald, who is the commercial director at Stelfox. Emerging technologies are changing so quickly that by the time a tech organisation has built out the team they need, the skills in demand can already be shifting. Due to the accelerated pace of technology, at times there is virtually no talent pool at all, Ms. MacDonald said. Wow. Oh. I suppose people would look at that and kind of say that's a first world problem. But it's a problem nonetheless, isn't it? It is. Here's a song that was released about 2 weeks ago from Nell Mescal, a very talented family, the Mescal family. Here she is with a brand new single. It's called Killing Time. Live on Eire. Good evening and welcome. Killing Time, it's what it's called. Nell Mescal, as I said, the Mescal family, very talented, because she and the actor Paul are brother and sister, and wish them well. Both of them climbing at the moment, and doing extremely well as well. I don't know. Julie said that she hoped that I would be applying for Keith's job. No, not a chance. No, I'm going to manage Arsenal, I told her. That's it. That's my plan. That's what I'm holding out for. That's my ambition. She meant, obviously, that I would apply for that and still be on TRE. Of course. I know what you meant, Julie. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Right. The probability of an outbreak of measles among unvaccinated groups in Ireland is high, Minister for Health Stephen Donnelly told Cabinet colleagues yesterday. It follows a risk assessment carried out by the Health Service Executive last month. There has been an increasing number of measles cases in both EU countries and in England recently. There were 4 cases in Ireland last year, which were linked to travel to countries where outbreaks are ongoing. However, it's increasingly likely that measles could be introduced and transmitted in Ireland. The Cabinet heard the only protection against measles is the MMR vaccine, but its uptake in Ireland has been below 90%. 90% for almost 2 years. According to the World Health Organization, the recommendation is a target of 95%. A recent Irish study has also estimated that more than 1 in 10, about 11% in fact, adults aged 18 to 34 are non-immune to measles. It's nearly 1 in 5, 18% for males aged 18 to 19 years of age. It's likely due to parental decisions not to vaccinate their children when they were young, following erroneous claims linking the vaccine to autism. Mr. Donnelly told government ministers the HSE is now testing its regional response plans in the event of a measles cases being detected. A vaccine catch-up programme for Leaving Cert and higher education students is also being examined. A targeted approach for counties with a low vaccine uptake is being drawn up as well. There's a lot of talk about that actually as well over the last couple of weeks, but I don't know what kind of traction it has gathered or if it's gathering any traction. Staying with yesterday's cabinet meeting, Minister for Justice Helen McEntee sought approval to draft new legislation to help Gardaí tackle online crime. The Criminal Justice Protection, Preservation and Access to Data on Information Systems Bill 2024 will ensure Gardaí have swift access to criminal evidence which is in digital form. Traditional search and seize laws target physical spaces and objects and predicate the technological evolution seen in recent years. All right. Given the amount of criminal activity which is now taking place in virtual space, this new bill will allow Gardaí to access online evidence easily while ensuring individuals' privacy rights are respected. Under the legislation, Gardaí will be able to apply for preservation and production orders to be served on internet service providers that will oblige them to preserve and produce digital evidence held on their systems. Now, Phil, there you go. What am I going to do now? Oh, yeah, Sean Parnell. He's originally from County Kerry, but is living in County Cork, and there's a very vibrant music scene in Cork, as you may know. And he's got a new single out since the 2nd of February. I had it lined up for last week on the programme again, but wasn't to be. Just the way it was. And I thought we'd give it a spin this evening. It's called Right Before I Leave. Sean Parnell.
Ask me if I'm always this quiet. I'm just soaking in the vibe while I can. Acting sociable. It's only awkward cause I know you. Only went out cause I thought you would be too. Right before I leave, tell me everything. Tell me everything, yeah. What you tell me, what you tell me. What you tell me, what you tell me. What you tell me. What you tell me, yeah. You say that you know me from a past life. I still can't believe that you remember my name. I kept it quiet from you last time. Now I gotta get it off my brain. Got a message from the other world. When I'm with you, it's like nothing's changed. Need to tell you how I feel. Right before I go, I gotta tell you how I feel. Word, cause I know you. Cause I thought you would be too. Right before I leave, tell me everything. Tell me everything. Tell me all word cause I know you. Only went out cause I thought you would be too. Right before I leave, tell me everything. Tell me everything. Tell me, tell me, tell me what you tell me. Tell me, tell me, tell me everything. Tell me, tell me, tell me what you tell me. Tell me, tell me, tell me everything. It's only awkward cause I know you. Only went out cause I thought you would be too. Right before I leave, tell me everything. Tell me everything. It's only awkward cause I know you. Only went out cause I thought you would be too. Right before I leave, tell me everything. Tell me everything. It's only awkward cause I know you. Only went out cause I thought you would be too. Right before I leave, tell me everything. Tell me everything. Yeah, what you tell me, what what you tell me, what you tell me, what you tell me, what you tell me, what you tell me.
Unusual, isn't it? Sean Parnell, Right Before I Leave is the name of that, and it's his new single. We wish him well with it. Now, this story, I might stumble across it. I haven't read it yet, but it came in just before the start of the programme, and I just haven't had a chance to read it. But Minister for Transport, Eamon Ryan, has said that he expects proposals to restrict traffic driving through Dublin city centre to start coming into effect from August. Mr. Ryan said that the city centre needs a lift, and the creation of more space for walking, cycling and public transport would make it a more attractive place to work, live, shop and go out at night. The draft Dublin City Transport Plan aims to encourage drivers who want to drive across the city centre to use to other destinations to drive around the central area and not through it. Measures included in the plan would see Bachelor's Walk and Aston's Quay closed to motorists and the removal of car traffic from Parliament Street and Customs House Quay. The results of the consultation on the plan were published this week and showed support levels of more than 80% for proposals to take space from cars in Dublin city centre. Now, that was argued at length on one of the radio programmes I was listening to yesterday morning. I was travelling to Dublin, actually, in the most horrendous weather. It was horrendous. But, that 80% figure was very much questioned. Brendan O'Brien, who is the head of technical services at Dublin City Council, said that the plan concentrates on the heart of the city centre, the Quays and Pearse Street areas, O'Connell Street and so on, to reduce the amount of traffic in the city centre area. He said access would still be allowed, for example, for deliveries and for people to reach various car parks, with the plan aimed at people who drive through the city centre who don't need to do that. Mr. O'Brien said currently public transport is being held up and the traffic is making it harder to implement cycling and walking plans that he says everybody would like to see. He added that generally unnecessary driving through the city centre does not contribute to the area. He said over the lifetime of the plan, which runs until 2028, it's hoped to introduce some of the plaza concepts and traffic-free zones in places like College Green and Pearse and Tara Streets to make the city centre less hostile to people when walking, cycling and using public transport. So there we go. It's going to be a very interesting time. They're introducing this at a time that they're not bringing into place proper facilities, public transport wise, for getting to the places like the airport and things like that. But as the fella says, they think they know what they're doing. The two, yeah. Right, I'm going to take a quick break, and after that, George Lee is going to join me. We're going to have a chat about some of the things that people in Ireland are talking about at the minute. Our G2 Summit at the other side of this very quick break.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
George Lee, you're welcome to the programme again. Another G2. In fact, is this the first G2 of the year?
That's a good question, Ger.
I think it is. Hang on, have a look at me book.
Yeah, I'll have to go through my file of facts. Do you remember the file of facts?
I do, the file of facts, yeah. God knows we haven't done a G2, George. Since myself and yourself and Ben, we did an wrap-up of the year last year and look ahead to 2024. Were we right about January?
Well, we were. It was very long anyway.
It was cold and all of that. There's a few bits and pieces happening. I suppose we'll start on a sad note. It was something I mentioned at the start of the programme. One of our ex-Taoiseach, former Taoiseach, John Bruton, his death was announced yesterday. I didn't know, but he was suffering apparently for quite a number of years with an illness and succumbed yesterday. So our thoughts obviously with the Bruton family, and tributes being paid to him. I was travelling yesterday and listening to a number of radio stations, including Talk Radio Europe, because Stephen Ritson, I heard mention John Bruton's name as well, and the fact that he had passed away. But a lot of nice things been said about him, George.
Yeah, look, I think the man was, he was understated, and in a time, I suppose, going back over those years when we had some very strong characters in as Taoiseach with Albert Reynolds and Charlie Hoy and Garrett Fitzgerald and, all of these, Bertie Ahern. John Bruton was probably the one that if you were going to mention all the Taoiseach of that era, he's the one that you might forget in the middle of it all. But that doesn't take from the fact that he was a very good statesman. He got on very well. And as you know, I'm a particular fan of Redmondites and John Redmond and Willie Redmond and the Irish National Party of that era. And Bruton would have seen himself as the last of those. And I heard it mentioned the other day that it's probably the last time that a picture of John Redmond will hang in the Taoiseach's office was when John Bruton was Taoiseach. And he would have seen himself at a time, I suppose, when we would have come off the back of a lot of republicanism in the 80s. He was probably of his time very useful in pulling in the unionist tradition into the talks and into the tent that eventually was to form the Good Friday Agreement. So I think he served his purpose very well. In those respects, most famously, they said he was the most unlucky and most lucky of Taoiseach. Yeah, because of course he almost made it on a couple of occasions, and then when he did actually make it for 3 years as Taoiseach between 94 and 97, it was on the back of a situation that should never have arisen within the Dáil in terms of arithmetic. Yeah, so it just goes to show, I suppose, the vagaries of politics to a certain extent. He was a brother, of course, of Richard Bruton, who also made a run, of course, for leader of Fine Gael at one point, unsuccessfully. But his most famous gaffe, I suppose, as Minister for Finance, would have been in that very turbulent time in the early 1980s, 81, 82, when we had 3 elections in 18 months, where he was famously the Minister for Finance that put VAT on children's shoes. And of course, our own Limerick man, Jim Kemmy, toppled the government on the back of that. And it led to an election which meant that Fine Gael didn't get back in again.
But they were running out of power for something like 8 months, because in November of that year there was another election, so they were back in again. Swings and roundabouts.
So it's a fascinating time. Look, and I suppose always looking back at politics, it's fascinating when you know the end of the story.
Yes, and he was a great man. He a lot of people said he didn't get the recognition that he deserved. You touched on it for the work that he did on the peace process in Northern Ireland. He was accused as being a unionist Taoiseach at one stage, if you recall that. But as you say, that was instrumental in bringing unionists and bringing the British government, because after Charles Haughey, Maggie Thatcher couldn't stand the place. I know John Major was the man that he was dealing with, but it certainly did a lot to help the Anglo-Irish relations, I think.
Well, he was in that interregnum period, I suppose, between Maggie Thatcher, Charlie Haughey, Gareth Fitzgerald, and then, of course, the ultimate deal makers in Tony Blair and Bertie Ahern, who brought it over the line in the end. But he was that safe pair of hands, I suppose. And, there was a lot of confidence building required in those early years, particularly of the 1990s, and he was up to that job.
He was. All right. John Bruton, death announced yesterday, go reva on him. Talking about the peace process, George, we have to talk about it, because whether you're throwing your eyes up to heaven and yawning or whether you're actually terribly interested, there's no getting away from the fact that the Northern Ireland Assembly and its return certainly keeping people occupied. And I suppose if there's any silver cloud or silver lining in the cloud of John Bruton's death, it took the Northern Ireland Assembly off the headlines for a couple of days anyway. So Northern Ireland Assembly back up and running. Are we going to have more of the same as we always had?
I don't think so. I think there's a different feel to this one, Ger, for some reason. It all came out of the blue that Jeffrey Donaldson and the Unionists decided to go back in. And my suspicion is that they read the runestones. They might be a bit slow on the uptake, but I think after the general strike in the north a couple of weeks ago, I think they began to hear what people were saying, and that is that we really don't care whether you're Catholic, Protestant, Unionist, Loyalist, Nationalist. We need money in our pockets, we need a functioning government, and we need a seat at the table. So let's get on with it. And I think that's the message that resoundingly came. And I was amazed actually at those strikes and the tenor that it struck, because it wasn't just we've all heard of the strikes in the north over the years, and Ian Paisley leading out people on the basis of unionism and sellouts and all of that. There was none of that there. This was, I think, an economic strike. And people said enough is enough, and it was almost like a referendum. Now, of course, the other thing is that they were looking down the barrel of a gun, and I think this time Chris Heaton-Harris, the Northern Secretary, and Rishi Sunak, who I think is weak anyway, but I think that they were going to pull the plug finally and go back. And I think the unionists realised that if they went back to the people, that they would have got absolutely hammered on the doorsteps and even more hammered in the assembly. So I think they didn't have a choice. And then they said, look, we'll make the best breast of it we possibly can, put the best glass on it and rock on. And I think that's why it's back. Yes, it's great to have it back. It really is. But I noticed immediately that the first thing that they did was that they turned around and said, well, 3.3 billion isn't really enough for us. Is there any chance there'll be anything left in the bag for us? And to which Rishi Sunak, in his Eton way, kind of told them what to do with themselves and beat a path back to London.
I suppose, yeah. Interesting times ahead, I suppose, in Northern Ireland. And I was listening to somebody talking the other day, and they were talking about, things are changing in the north. And I'm not necessarily talking about the reunification of the country, but in a number of years' time, 1/3 of the population in Northern Ireland will be neither Catholic nor Protestant, neither nationalist nor unionist. And that is another one of those wake-up calls, I think, when people look at it. And I suppose over the next 50 years, you're going to see a whittling down further of all of that. So the old enemies may not be actually old enemies for long more.
Yeah, and I was contemplating this, having the shave the other morning in the mirror, which is not something you do terribly often, I know, but unless it's your head.
For listeners, I have a beard.
And you're bald.
No, I just shaved my head, that's all.
But I was thinking about this, and, even down south, we've got to a stage where religion doesn't play the same part that it always did. And I think that has probably been the greatest catalyst for a lot of the change, both north and south, I suppose, but particularly up north in the last number of years. And I don't think it's something that anybody could have foreseen, because looking back over 50 years, the thought process would have always been, the nationalists will breed faster than the loyalists. Yeah. And that was the way it was going to be. And that was how it was going to become, that they were going to become more powerful. But I don't think anyone saw this other one coming down the tracks, that religion really won't play a role in it. And it goes back to the old Bill Clinton saying of, it's all about the economy, stupid, at the end of the day. And if you have more money in your pocket, you'll go whatever way gets that money into your pocket.
One of the things that was said to have kind of sparked their interest as well was the fact that if they hadn't gone back by tomorrow, then there could have been fresh elections called, but that was never going to be the situation anyway. But I want to talk to you as well, George, about something that's uniquely happening in Limerick this year, and that is the election of a mayor. And it hasn't been that way anywhere in Ireland, as far as I know. Waterford rejected it, and Limerick, Galway rejected it as well, I think, didn't they?
Yeah, it's been put up in a number of different places, but it was to be the Great White Hope, and there was an idea that this would work all the way around the country. So just to describe it, I suppose, for listeners, it's a democratically elected mayor. So the way that it currently works is that you elect your councillors for a period of 5 years from each of the individual local wards. Mm-hmm. So there would be 5 or 6 different wards or constituencies, mini constituencies within a city like Limerick. And there would be a panel of councillors elected from whatever parties in the usual PR way. And then, on the basis of the arithmetic in the council, different mayor would be elected every year. But it would be elected by the councillors.
It's a rotation as well, isn't it? It's a rotation. Fine Gael have it this year. Fine Gael have it next year. Labour have it. Independence.
It just depends. It depends who's in power, or what deals can be done within the various parties. But the way that it's now being looked at is that there is going to be a democratically elected mayor by the people of the city, so that rather than the councillors electing the mayor, the people of the city and county will elect the mayor themselves. So every 5 years, there will be, in conjunction with the local elections, there'll be a mayoral election. To say that it has been a damn squib up to this point, I think, is a bit of an understatement.
Right.
I was talking to somebody who knows this system quite well the other day, and we were having a discussion about it. And we kind of came to the conclusion that Johnny Man on the street hasn't really copped on to this yet. Doesn't realise that this thing is even coming down the tracks.
Okay.
There has been no, and it's interesting because this is now early February, and the election is on the 6th of June. There has been no declared candidate yet. A number of people have kind of thrown it out there that might be interested. There has been no declared candidate yet, and certainly no party declared candidate yet. Also, from the time that it was voted in, and it was voted in, I think, at the time of the last general election in Limerick, there was an additional plebiscite put to the people as to whether they wanted it or not. Since that has happened, the powers that the democratically elected mayor were to have been diluted quite a lot.
Okay.
Up to now, the functions of the directly elected mayor, the ceremonial functions would have been carried out by the mayor. The mayor that was elected by the council. But I suppose the administrative functions of that role would have been carried out by the chief executive of the city and county council in Limerick's case. In the case of Limerick, that's Pat Daly. But an awful lot, from what I can gather, an awful lot of those executive functions are now to be kept within the council. The more ceremonial functions will go to the directly elected mayor. Limerick is very much the canary in the coal mine in all of this, how all of this pans out. And I'm reminded of the statement that Neil O'Dowd made on the day that Donald Trump was elected to the presidency in America, when he was being interviewed on Morning Ireland, and he was asked what he thought of Donald Trump, and he said, of course, he being a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat himself, his answer was, the reason that very good presidents can get very little done in the presidency is that very bad presidents can get very little done as well.
George, is it going to be like a business person? Is it going to be a public representative, a sports personality? Do we have any idea at all who might or might not be interested?
Nobody has formally declared for it, so we don't. The names that have been thrown out there are a little bit of all of that. And no, I'm certainly not going to name names because, but the names that I've heard are, quasi political in some respects.
Right.
But I believe not running in terms of a political party. They would be business people who would have had a public sector background.
Right.
They've also been mentioned. There has been names thrown out like sports people and all of that, but I really think they were more, spinners in the water than anything else. And then there has been nobody mentioned in terms of political parties as such. And it's just a strange one. I think everybody is waiting for everybody else to declare on this.
Okay.
It is what it is, I suppose,
All right. That's taking place, as you said, on the 6th of June. But in March, we've got two referendums, or referenda, which is the correct one, I don't know. I think both might be correct at times. Is there any bit of activity in Limerick in terms of, kind of talking about this, bringing people in on one side or the other side, because it's just starting to gain momentum now on the media?
Yeah, I've heard absolutely nothing about it, Ger. I know that one of the weekend radio programs did a piece on it last Saturday, where they had somebody speaking pro and,
right.
and
well, they have
against
to. Yeah,
it,
they have to. Yeah,
on both of it. Personally, I think this is just a distraction. I really don't know. I don't know enough about it, I suppose, to express an opinion. But on the other side of it, from what I've seen of it, I don't know if it's the most, number one, it's the most exciting piece of referendum history that we've ever had in the country, number one. But number two, I really don't know. Surely there are more pressing things that we could be having a referendum in the country on. And this part of me says maybe this has been done, number one, to tick a box. Right. In terms of the programme for government, and number two, to take our minds off of the things that might be happening in the country.
Not like you to be cynical. All right, I presume we'll come back to this as it gets closer to March.
Whenever I figure out what it's all about.
We figure out what it's all about, exactly. I've been listening. It seems like a slam dunk. It seems like, it should be done. It should be dusted. But, of course, you'll always have those that are in favour and those that are against.
I wouldn't always go that way, Ger, and because there are a lot of people like me, and I have always erred on the side of caution, and certainly in both of the European referendums, the Lisbon and the Maastricht one. I would have voted against them, and I would have voted against them not because I was being anti-European, but because nobody explained them to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to vote for something if it's not explained properly to me.
I was one of the ones that voted no on the first one, and then when it came back and did it again, I really wanted to write on the ballot paper, I said no, because nothing had changed. But it all moved forward. All right, referendum. We'll come back to that. Listen, something a little bit more exciting, a little bit more positive and uplifting as well. The first game in the Six Nations last Friday night. I was travelling, as you know, I was listening to it on the radio, and it seemed a very interesting game, and the result was unexpected, I think, against the French, but a fabulous outing for the Irish team.
It was an absolute tremendous outcome, Ger, and it was something that I didn't see coming, I have to tell you. I really thought there would be a hangover. I thought the whole Marseille factor and bringing it to Marseille was going to be a big issue. Because once the French support gets behind their team, now the corollary is also the case when the French start playing poorly, their support tends to go merde, or words to that effect. I mean, I would say that in Spanish radio.
I don't know. We'll find out. Very short.
Third party language. But it's it was just tremendous. I would, of course, all politics is local, and I was just delighted to see Calvin Nash, making his first Six Nations debut. Calvin is a young lad that I've watched from the time he was 5 or 6 playing rugby. He played with my son really in the club, and they started off as minis and worked their way all the way through. And I would know the mum and dad, and I'd know Calvin. Just good people, and great to see it, and in the true tradition, really, of Limerick rugby, and it was just lovely to see it, and that he was able to hold his own and score a try in his debut as well, which was tremendous. And as well as not just Calvin, Joe McCarthy. I mean, they're just a wholesome bunch. There's a beautiful photograph. I don't know if you saw that, of Joe McCarthy presenting his man of the match medal.
I did, to his brother.
Yes, who's a special needs kid in the stand afterwards, and it was just beautiful to see it, and they just seem like a nice bunch of guys, and it's lovely to see it. It followed up on a photograph that had appeared the day before of Paul O'Connell's son and Andy Farrell's son, who were both captaining their school teams in a match of Old Wesley against, I think, Castletroy College. And it was just interesting to see the next generation coming up as well. But whatever about the seniors, the under-20s win against France the following evening was just a tour de force. And it really augurs well for the future of Irish rugby as well, to see these guys coming up. They were just tremendous and kept coming back, and it was a ding-dong game. It was one of the best games of rugby that I've seen.
Oh, very good. And of course, as a Munster fan, delighted to see Peter O'Mahony out there taking charge and leading them out. And his first outing as captain was brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant as well. In fact, I thought the comment that was made, maybe it was Johnny Sexton was holding us back all along.
Maybe it was. Oh, boom. All right, listen, I think we've kind of covered everything that we needed to cover. They're the things that people are talking about, really. There'll be other bits and pieces that we can't mention on the radio. We're not going to do that. But anyway, did you enjoy your... I was talking...
There was one item...
Oh, sorry.
Ger,
go on.
That I wanted to mention as well.
Right.
It's quite important for both you and I. The fact that Donkey Ford's was closed for a week and a half. Ger.
Is it open again?
It has reopened. I was speaking with them yesterday. I needed to do just a reconnaissance because I knew we'd be speaking about it today. So,
right. And for listeners, because of the huge budgets we have on Live on Eire, George gets paid in fish and chips from Donkey Ford's in Limerick, and you can check out Donkey Ford's online and see what a wonderful establishment it is. It's iconic in Limerick, so that's how George gets paid. And how you put that in the tax form every year is beyond me. benefit in Bathor, not benefit in kind.
Well, you see, I don't take vinegar, Ger.
Oh, you do when I buy them. You just don't know. I say double salt, double vinegar on that one there, please. Come here. In the first hour, I was talking to Dr. Karen Ward about St. Bridget, and we just had the the Bridget's weekend. And how was it? Did you do anything nice or exciting?
Look, Jerry, it's probably the bank holiday we should have in July, because July is one of the few months that we don't have a bank holiday in.
Oh, here we go. He's never happy.
If they could bring it into July, it would probably be more useful. But look, did a few bits around at home and then decided to go west on Monday and got down to West Clare and breathed in the sea air and watched the sea on the rocks, and it revived the drooping spirit.
Fantastic. All righty. George Lee, as always, thanks ever so much for coming along to chat to me on the G2. I wish you well and look forward to chatting to you again in the very near future, and we'll buy chips shortly.
Thanks, Ger.
See him driving those golden nails that hold together the silver bars. That one day gonna take us to the stars, 'cause he's the man who built America. See him walking that golden wire, 1,000,000 miles from his starting place. See the weight reflected in his face, 'cause he's the man who built America. You colored kids on the borderline, and all you golden children of the sun, he's falling to you each and every one, 'cause he's the man who built America.
love that. And it's not the first time you've heard it on Live on Eire, and all going well, it won't be the last time either. Horselips and the Man Who Built America. Great song it is too. Thanks to George for the G2. Looking forward to the fish and chips. Donkey Fords, huh? The Presbyterian Church in Ireland has selected Reverend Richard Murray of Drumree. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Drumree Presbyterian Church in County Antrim to be its next moderator. Mr. Murray was nominated by 9 of the church's 19 presbyteries yesterday evening when they met across Ireland to elect a successor to the current moderator, the Reverend Dr. Sam Mawhinney. Brought up in Belfast, the 58-year-old has been minister of the County Antrim congregation since 2016 and will be the denomination's 179th moderator since 1840. Mr. Murray said that he felt humbled to be called to this office, yet also privileged. He added that his desire was to be committed to the Word of God in everything, and his request is that people remember him in prayer throughout the year in office. Mr. Murray was one of the 5 nominees this year and will be formally elected as moderator by the Church's General Assembly in June. Until then, he will be known as the moderator designate and continue to serve his congregation in Drumree. There we go. We wish him well with his post as when he takes it up in June. I tell you, lads, it'll be the bat of an eyelid when we are actually announcing that he has been officially thingamajiggied. Elected. Couldn't think of the word. Sometimes this hour of the night, things kind of just get to you. The record numbers of admitted patients are waiting on trolleys in the emergency department and on hospital wards at University Hospital Limerick for the 2nd day in a row. This is a savage story. A total of 150 patients are without a hospital bed at UHL today. That's according to the Irish Nurses and Midwives Organisation, the highest figures since they began recording their trolley watch lists almost 20 years ago, back in 2006. The number stood at 138 yesterday, with 132 recorded on the 22nd of January. According to the Health Service Executive's own figures from its daily emergency and urgent care list, 103 patients were waiting on trolleys at 8 a.m. at University Hospital Limerick. 47 were on trolleys in the ED, and a further 56 were spread across wards in the hospital. 32 of these were waiting more than 24 hours, and 12 of those were aged 75 and over. That's scandalous. It must be awful to see somebody of that age in pain and needing assistance and being left on a trolley for over 24 hours. Wow. The University Hospital Limerick Group has said that elective procedures at UHL are reviewed on a daily basis because of overcrowding, and minor elective procedures are being postponed because beds in their day surgery and cardiology wards are being used as part of their surge capacity. This is also having a knock-on impact on elective procedures at its hospitals in Ennis and Neenah, where day beds are also required. The group has confirmed that 88 elective procedures at Neenah Hospital have now been cancelled from the beginning of the year up to last Friday. That's only a very short period of time. The numbers presenting at UHL are also up on last year according to national figures. They show that in the first 3 weeks of this year, presentations at the hospital's emergency department were up by 28%, and emergency admissions increased by 17%. This trend is more pronounced in the over 75 years age group, with a 39% in people turning up at the ED, and admissions in that age group up by 34%. The HSE said that overall there are exceptionally high attendances at EDs around the country, as well as very high levels of hospital admissions. The Irish Nurses and Midwives Organisation, the INMO, said that this morning there were 710 admitted patients waiting for a hospital bed at hospitals around the country, including 60 at Cork University Hospital, 41 at St Vincent's Hospital in Dublin, and 25 across 3 Children's Hospital in Dublin. The HSE figures show that there were 407 admitted patients in emergency departments, with 143 in wards waiting for a bed. And they keep throwing money at it. And I don't think they're looking at the source of the problem and the root of the problem. They're just throwing more money at it. And they've been doing that for quite some time. I heard the figure is the figure, I think the budget that the HSE operates on is something in the region of 22 billion. Am I right? I think it's something like that. I heard a figure this evening, but anyway, there you go. That's it. Yeah, we've come to the end of another Live on Eire. Delighted to be back with you this week on the programme. I hope that you have enjoyed listening to what I presented over the last 2 hours. Thank you to Dr. Karen Ward from Bridget's Way, Celtic Pilgrimage. As I said, something I would definitely like to do. I doubt I'd be able to get a chance to do it 9 days in a row, but I'd certainly chip away at it, as many people do with the Camino in Spain. Thanks to George Lee as well for the G2. Thanks a million to George and to Dr. Ward. Can I say thank you as well to our Spanish-Irish cultural advisor on the programme. That is Antonio Sierra. And I want to send good wishes as well to Patricia Traynor, who joins us regularly to tell us stories. She had a little procedure, nothing serious, thankfully. Little procedure recently, and she tells me she's recovering beautifully. Really well. That's great. That's good news. And Patricia, good luck to yourself and to Juan if you happen to be tuned in this evening. We've been thinking of you and sending our positive thoughts. I'm delighted that all is good. We're going to the BBC after the news at the top of the hour. And we'll stay with the Beeb until tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock when Dave will be in for Daybreak. So from me, Ger Sweeney, have a smashing week. I'll see you next week, hopefully. And look after yourselves and keep it here. Bye-bye.
Ger Sweeney presents Live on Eire in association with emeraldconnection.net.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit TRE.radio.